I have been wanting to ask somebody in the fashion world this question. Do you think that men or women are more brutal about each other's fashion?
I think women. I think women. I think, well, perhaps I think women have the background to be like more incisive in their critiques. I think men do a lot of like bullying of each other, but I think by and large, pound for pound, men know less about clothes and have like less ability to critique it and think about it.
Seymour, do you hear much criticism from your end of the woods?
Do I hear it like directed to me, to myself?
Yeah, let's just speak in first person for now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little harder to. I think like the substance of what I wear is a little harder to critique because it's pretty like down the middle. The criticism is more like people that think I'm, stealing some integral part of their identity by wearing something that they've seen someone in their area or profession wear at some point in time. So yeah, they're pretty broad critiques and not really anything that carries a lot of weight usually.
Is that the issue with appropriating workwear, or is that you think common across all different kinds of fashion styles?
I mean, yeah, it definitely comes with the territory. I think it comes with like just our economic situation being so bad and like a stratification of our society that is, pretty unprecedentedly bad, and also just like everyone being on the internet together. I think that, for a long time, workwear in quotes was like just what everybody that wasn't like super upper crust wore day to day because it's the most functional bang for your buck thing that exists. And I think it's yeah, things are definitely getting us versus them in all aspects of culture. And of course, clothes is no different.
You have a history background, don't you?
I do, yes, yes. History major in college.
How does that overlap with the fashion world?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think like that's kind of how I got into clothes was uh, through the history angle. I just think that that's like an easy in for me, and I think for a lot of guys, there's kind of when I before I really growing up, I always wanted to dress better, and I didn't know how necessarily, and I felt like history provided a like you can kind of take a piece that you see, and if you learn about it and kind of go back to its origin, its like simplest iteration, then you can kind of work forward and figure out what kind of that version of that style you want to wear in your own life. If that makes sense. Yeah.
What do you see then with workwear just being the way that people dressed? When did it become a genre in itself?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, when did it become a genre in and of itself? Well, I think for a long time, I mean, in the aftermath of World War II, people get acclimate like people of all walks of life get acclimated to wearing uh, a very well made, functional kind of cotton clothing that maybe they didn't have access to because of the Great Depression, or maybe they weren't really supposed to wear because they were high society or whatever. So it's a kind of great equalizer. And then you have the first generation, we have the birth of the consumer economy, teenagers. I think it's probably around the maybe like the 60s or so, because that's when all of the workwear brands kind of pivot into fashion. It's when like Levi's first begins using the term jeans in their advertising. And
It was
yeah,
just denim before.
they'd call them like way back they were called waist overalls. And I don't know what the messaging was, but probably yeah, it was like denim pants or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
blue jeans is like 1960s. They start using that terminology.
is that the origin story of that word itself, or was jeans still used colloquially with denim, but it just wasn't associated in the marketing sense?
Yeah, like it's interesting. There's a lot of different like there's a lot of different there's no clear answer on any of these like denim terms, and I think everybody wants to have a really succinct response to like who invented denim, where did it come from, whatever. But I mean, in terms of like the word jeans being used, it's in use as early as the mid 1800s. There's like a really good PBS documentary, and take a look at runaway slave ads put in papers. So like slave owners would put ads into papers if their slaves ran away to the north, and so usually they would describe them by what they were wearing, and as denim was like pretty cheap, they would usually be like they were wearing brown jeans, they were wearing this kind of jeans. So it goes pretty far back.
Yeah. The origin stories of America in general is dark, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing about denim is that it's like the most American thing, and therefore it really synthesizes all that is good and all that is very bad about
Yeah,
American
art history.
history. Yeah.
You're saying a little bit about the criticism. Well, first off, we're getting straight into what I deem you as the absolute expert on. I would be so intimidated wearing jeans around you. And given one, your historical knowledge, but also you seem to be very opinionated about denim. So I kind of just sit on the floor and worship your knowledge about this. What do, first and foremost, guys get wrong when it comes to denim, in your opinion?
Well, first, it's very kind of you to say all those things. I mean, that's very means a lot. You know, as for being opinionated, like I think I definitely, as I've done this work longer, I feel like I'm a little less intense about my, like I see that there is room for everything. Also, like the longer you're kind of in the fashion space in any capacity, the more you see the trends. Like you live through a full like decade trend cycle, and you're like, oh, this really is, we're on a continuum here of things all happening at the same time. So that can kind of mellow you out, as I think just aging will do also. What do you guys get wrong about jeans? Well, I think that in a big way, I think guys in a lot of their, and this is kind of like way back to your original point about who's more critical, men or women. I think because men are less socialized to think about clothes, they think of like all the categories in the wardrobe as just like something really easy you can check off. And blue jeans is something that is so, that are a piece that is so ubiquitous in our society, is something that I think guys really just want to like check off the list, and they don't really, and they for a long time weren't able to dive into this super complex arena and walk away from the experience with the best thing for their body and their life. So I think it's just, guys want to like kind of breeze past things. And this is like kind of the very general guy. I have a feeling you and I and many of our colleagues have been thinking about this a lot more than most people have. So yeah, I think they just want to breeze past it, and they're not really ready to think about the nitty gritty.
Well, so I'm picking up some contradictions with the way that you speak about denim, this kind of culminating or originating as just something that people didn't think about. It was the only thing available. Mm-hmm. It's what you wore to work, and presumably you would wear that when you got home. Mm-hmm. There probably weren't a lot of options. There is a sense of irony to hearing this from an outsider's perspective who's listening to this guy talk about denim, who is maybe dumbing down his level of opinion over time as to his ferventness about what guys wear. There's an irony, though, isn't it, there, to like overcomplicating things?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, like the funny way you can think about denim, if you like transport yourself like 70, 80 years into the past, is it's a performance fabric for its time, where like It's this incredibly hardy and comfortable fabric. It's 100% cotton. Maybe before that, you only had access to like wool pants. You're wearing wool. Your blankets were wool. You know, you lived a scratchy, itchy, too hot life. And so denim appears and yeah, and for a long and it is complicated in the sense that when it arrives on the scene, it radically improves people's quality of working life. And you know, sorry, we've opened a lot of can of worms historically. So let's say that you know, but then like if you but then if you talk about the people on those plantations who escaped to freedom, they were wearing a very different quality of fabric than like you know uh, a guy that was able to save up his wages to buy a pair of Levi's on the West Coast. So
Quality of fabric in the fabrication of it, not necessarily the actual textile or the what it was material made out of. Like it was all cotton back then, right? And wool.
yeah, it was all cotton. But yeah, I mean, it still depended on like what mill you were going to. It would have been fabric from a fabrication perspective, certainly, but there were different mills in operation of varying degrees of, you know, skill. And there were also like, there were mills, presumably, that largely what they made was cheap cloth to sell to plantations. So for that explicit purpose, as opposed to like originally Musquiz mills in, I believe in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, Musquiz mills, which was the first Levi's fabric provider until 1915, and then Cone mills from 1915 to like the mid 80s, 90s.
Dude, you're such a gangster with those the dates.
I
Very
did this.
impressive.
I did
Flexing
this
the
a long
historical
time.
knowledge.
Yeah, I did this a long time.
I feel like if you were to get any heat about appropriating workwear culture, you could just back this up with your facts. If anybody owns this now, it's you.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think so, and it's funny because I think that those criticisms are largely because when you experience someone online, you just get such a tiny window into what it is they're talking about. And I really have a like so much respect for these pieces, and the history is what excites me. And collecting this and like getting to collect pieces that sort of allow me to better understand what life was like in a different period of time or like what a certain job entailed. I really think that's fascinating, but I can see I've had to understand and kind of see from other people's perspectives that somebody somebody who does like a laptop job far away, like, you know, waxing poetic about your grandpa's jacket he wore to do really intense labor. I can see that that's kind of crazy if you haven't, but I think more people have come to respect that over time with, especially like me being able to like talk in longer chunks about why I love it.
That makes no sense to me as to why anybody would have a problem with that, though. Was there a time where there was a guy on the internet who ruined that? Because if I came across your content, no part of my mind thinks that you don't belong in your clothing.
People are crazy. I don't, I don't know.
I've been thinking a lot about how it just seems like there's, as you suggest, an emphasis on the internet that if you talk about something with passion and somebody hasn't given it a lot of thought, that you shouldn't be talking about that thing too. Do you have that experience at all?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think about that a lot. Where, yeah, and I think that's even changed a little. Well, no, I guess the whole time I've been online, it's been a little bit of that. Yeah, it is funny. I think I think that I mean I'm obviously in the camp of like learning is really powerful and a really great experience. I think you know like the more you learn, the less you know type thing, and I think that that can be intense. If you haven't had that experience, like learning is humbling, and especially something that with these pieces, with workwear specifically, it is. I mean, workwear is even calling it workwear is to think about it a little bit more than some people do. Like, this is just clothes. This is just t-shirts. This is just jeans. This is just belts. And it's just, it's like truly like you cannot see the forest for the trees. So I think to learn that there is this whole other, there's so much more depth to it, for me was such an exciting thing to learn. I was like, I have so much more to tap into here. This is way more interesting than I thought. But I think if you're a less secure person, it can be scary. Like, or, and especially like if you are trying to dress well and present yourself well, maybe it's intimidating to be like, oh, I've never given this thought. I've only just grabbed the first thing that fit me off the rack, or just bought what my girlfriend gave me, or whatever the fuck it is. So I can see it from both sides.
Is there anything about the complexity of workwear that you haven't really been able to nail and articulate to a community, given time constraints or just your own time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, I think there's something intangible about the importance of these, of especially of denim. There's something really intangible about it, and it's it's hard to put a finger on exactly why these denim originally work pants became so integral to just every person's wardrobe. And like you can say like, yes, it's American hegemony, or yes, it's because they were that comfortable. But there's something deeper about, or because they were in all these movies, but there's something deeper about it. And it's about like how we want to perceive ourselves, how the fabric ages. It's about like sex. It's about, so it's just, it's this incredible melting pot of all these different ideas. And I've never been able to, I don't think anybody will ever be able to put it into like one succinct sentence. Why are jeans so important to us, and why do we gravitate towards them in this way?
Yeah. How much of what you present to the world, you seem to have more of a columnist's approach to your business, kind of documenting your particular style of fashion, but less so, I don't know necessarily of your relationship status or your living quarters. I imagine your audience also feels that way. This is kind of wholesale the critique with a lot of influencers. You can only see a snapshot of their life, and to what extent it's curated is up to them. But I imagine if you are emphasizing one thing, the workwear outfit, people, I could imagine, might wrongfully only think that this is your thing, that this is all you think about. They don't really understand the 23 and a half hours of the rest of your life. Is that intentional with your brand, with your business? And do you see that as maybe a challenge with communicating your message with the level of nuance that you kind of want?
Yeah, well, that's another great question. I mean, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it has been sort of intense. Well, certain things about my personal life, I've never felt interested in showing to the world. Like, I also, the more public facing my work has become, the less inclined I am to expose myself, because it's like, yeah, one viral video kind of hitting the wrong side of the internet, and then like whoever I'm dating or whoever my friends or whoever, like they might catch heat that they like. I've spent basically 5 years learning how to handle this, and not everybody knows how to do it, you know. And that's honestly good for them. That means they're probably living a healthier life than I am. But yeah, I think that it's a little bit unintentional also, in a sense, because when I started doing this stuff, this was what I was thinking about a lot. And I had come from working in retail, and And I've been helping guys get into clothes. I've been styling. Well, I worked in a store at Selfridge LA, where a big part of it is like making sure that the customer. There's so much nuance in the clothes that you really have to basically style them in store and kind of talk them into the right pair. And I had been like trying to help guys wear the most flattering jeans for their body, and then consistently been like, foiled by a girlfriend being like, you need to wear something skinnier, or just like or like watching a guy kind of confront his own insecurity about maybe his numeric size, or his understanding of this piece. And so I had been in the trenches in retail for years, and so when I came to social media, I had so many like hard and fast rules that I wanted to share, like these things that had been bugging me. And kind of like I said, like over time, you're kind of like, oh well, I feel like I have kind of said all of my big things, and so I think what I'm doing more on YouTube now is like trying to kind of flex my historical muscles, and also like to meet with experts who can teach me new things, because I'd rather the social media game in the short form game feels a lot like me, this is how much I know, but we all only know so much unless we're actively like, researching, learning, and growing. So yeah,
That's so interesting. I didn't know you had a retail background, and there's such a psychological component if you're dealing one on one with somebody, looking them in the eyes and seeing their image of themselves shift.
yeah.
So when you are making content, especially when you were starting off, did you have like the avatar of a certain kind of man in his fashion journey when you are making those videos?
A little bit. I mean, there's this really like you can feel a change in the room when somebody who hasn't really liked their clothes puts on something that they do like and makes them feel good. Like there's something you can feel that happens. And that's like a really special, and like I had kind of gone through that experience in my own time. And so to get to see that process over and over and over again was really special, and also like did make me believe in the importance of this, like the psychological transformative quality of this, and also of denim as a gateway drug into getting interested in fashion more generally. Like as the first thing that a guy can be like, yeah, that's still masculine enough, that's still tough enough, that's rugged enough. But then he learns about how stitching works and like construction, and like before you know it, he's like into suiting, and he's done the whole thing. So
I
yeah.
wouldn't see that being obvious gateway into more when there isn't a progression in my mind when it comes to denim. My dad wore denim for 50 years in his blue collar job, and he never really had much of a sartorial prowess after that.
Well, yeah, I maybe need to focus this theory of mine, but I mean more so in if you buy high end denim, if you tap into that world, especially Japanese denim, especially raw denim, I think that it teaches you a lot about just the nuance of clothing. And I'm sure a lot of the guys that I sold pants to were like, okay, these pants are great, and they wore them for a few weeks, and maybe they never touched them again. But especially at Self Edge, because it was a really like information heavy shopping experience. Guys would get really into the story, and then like you'd sell a guy a pair of jeans, and he'd come back and he'd want like a flannel, and then he'd want a leather jacket, and then he'd want, and then there's all kinds of ways that they can go. Then maybe they go into like the Rick Owens world, maybe then they go and they like get into vintage Armani. Like you could really, but I think because that world is so detail based, all the Japanese brands are so detail based, that if you, and I think that's also like how I got into fashion was through history. I think that a lot of dudes get into clothes through like data, through like information, because it's much more tangible than like this is sexy or this is on trend. And I think that you kind of go from the nerdy kind of, oh, this is made on this mill or on this kind of loom, or this was sewn on with this machine, and then it's like it's like an escape valve to let you care about aesthetics without making yourself too vulnerable to criticism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And is there a shadow side to that though? Can a dude care too much about the data where it this becomes a little bit more performative in that sense if he's rocking an extra elite pair of vintage and he's talking about the day it was made and the guy it was stitched by, like he's flexing the keys to his Lambo?
Yes. The short answer, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like as I've progressed in this world. Also, the longer I've been in it, the less I've felt like that kind of mania. You know, because after a certain, I think that's a good way to start, and it's a good way to learn the basics. And then I think at a certain point, it's like, yeah, you should allow your, like, for a long time I wasn't even, I mean, when I first started in at Self Edge and all that, I was like, I wasn't even buying vintage because I was like, it's only the best Japanese clothing that will grace my body. That's my philosophy. And then in the pandemic, I wasn't at work all the time and I wasn't around all these nerds all the time. And I was like, what am I like? Yeah, I should just like, I can get like a $40 pair of jeans on Depop. And if they're cool, they're cool. Like that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also feel like that side, the detail side, the kind of freaky numbers side was way more a part of my world when like forum culture was a thing. And I think now in the social media age, it's maybe more like really more just like the visual aspect, like how does this photograph, how does this look on film. So there's a lot of wrong ways to go, but there's a path down the middle that I think is a sensible route for people.
This is going to be just about denim, and I'm not mad at that. An
Yeah,
hour of just
I'm happy to branch out if you've other
tell me about
anything
your
else.
hobbies. What does Albert do in his free time when you're not thinking about raw Japanese denim?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think I made a lot of like what I do for fun my job, which was like thinking about Japanese denim. I work out, I lift weights, I run when I can. I like reading, I like watching movies. I mean, it's like really classic stuff. I think people think I'm maybe living a more exciting life than I am. I'm 30 now. I'm a little less like out. I'm a little less out in the nightlife, and but
It
yeah,
sounds
I don't.
exciting to me, man. You're describing my life. So guys only want one thing, and that's to lift well and to dress well. I think this is a life well lived.
Yeah, I am inclined to feel that way. I really love lifting and I feel like that's been a really guiding light for me in the last couple years and been a way to stay sane.
Yeah, I really want to talk about this, and I hate that it's going to come right back to fashion, but the I can picture the sorts of detractors of yours.
Uh-huh.
There's the he's appropriating my people's clothing because this Silver Lake boy
Yeah,
does
yeah, yeah.
not have
Yeah.
calloused hands like my
Yeah,
pappy
yeah.
did.
Yeah, yeah.
But also what I see with a lot of you gentlemen in the fashion business is the criticism towards your physiques. Like that is
Yeah.
it's the to the diminishment of any of your knowledge or your taste, that it is simply just your genetics or your musculature. Do you get
Yeah.
any of that kind of heat yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I feel like I've been it's funny also because, and maybe if you can relate to this, because nobody really knows how tall you are, how big you are, like there's really only so much that they can know. And but you are like the boogeyman of like their worst fear, or their biggest insecurity. And yeah, it's funny because like the whole reason that I began this, because yeah, I mean obviously a lot of it was like it's because you're very thin that you can do all this stuff. And which is funny because even when I was at my thinnest, which is not now, even when I was at my thinnest, the whole reason that was interested in clothing at all was because skinny jeans were really in, and they didn't fit on my legs. Like my legs were always too big for slim jeans, and so like, and that's the journey. Like it literally came because I had an insecurity. I couldn't fit into something that I felt like everybody else could just wear without thinking, and so it's kind of rich because it's like they're like you're just doing this because you're this way, and then and then you don't. It's tough because you don't want to, and they'll also do a thing where they're like, can you show me like a bigger guy wearing something? Can you show me someone who's like fat or whatever wearing this? And what's a crazy trap, I think, is a lot of creators are like, sure, here are 5 creators that I think are fat and they are wearing these things, and it's like, you don't know how these guys view themselves or like what words they use to like articulate their own bodies or like, so I'm never going to go out there and like on a limb and say like this guy is an arbiter of that quality. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean it definitely happens. I get it's, but I feel like lately I'm not as skinny as I used to be, and I think that like I get a little less heat now because of that.
Thank you for taking one for the team. I think you go full into it though and gain like another 50 pounds and think of the following that you could get.
That's true. Yeah, that's what it's all about, really.
Based on your luck with the Wi-Fi though, that you'd probably then experience the trend of skinny jeans coming back once you gain that 50 pounds, and then you wouldn't be able to fit in them again.
Don't worry, I don't feel any inclination to tap back in, no matter what. So,
you're unlocking a memory of mine in college that I, not exclusively, but a massive motivation for me to lose weight, having been a chubby kid most of my life, was to fit into skinny jeans. And I remember just shopping in the Husky Kids section, and then like finally being able to walk in a department store and shop in the normal clothes and to be able to fit into the skinny jeans. And I think that's probably why I held on to the skinny jeans for so long. Like I was rocking jeggings until 2021.
Well, you worked hard for those jeggings, I imagine.
Man, and they sat in my closet for another 2 years, just like I was praying that it would be acceptable for me just to paint my pants on again.
Well, at this rate, it probably will be pretty soon.
I don't know about, maybe you can speak to this, having the historical knowledge that you do, of the life cycle, particularly with denim and the fluctuation that we've seen in our generation, but just in the last 5 years, from skinny to like an exaggerated swing of the pendulum to the opposite side. And now kind of we're seeing the pendulum swing back. And I would not be surprised to see it acceptable to see like the European sort of look back in America again with the skinny jeans. What do you think about that?
It's hard to say. I don't think that we'll ever have like a dominant style, like cut anymore. I think there's just everything is happening all at once, and we're all so siloed into the various parts of our algorithm that I think kind of all things will be true. And then there's always the thing where it's like like I don't know, maybe like Tucker Carlson's gonna start wearing like Jenkos pretty soon, and like the
Jenkos?
right. What are Jenkos?
Yeah.
They're like the super big like raver jeans, like the obscenely large.
Okay.
It's like, because like conservative men said that like guys were gay for wearing skinny jeans, and then now they're wearing skinny jeans. It's like it's like who's behind the curve, who's ahead of the curve, and and then I think that even when like skinny jeans were a whole thing, there were just probably a lot of guys, just probably the majority of regular guys were just wearing like a straight leg denim. There's always that contingent throughout time. So
Yep, the midwit who is never too smart, too dumb. He always just right in the middle, and that's where everybody meets him.
yeah, so
And that's kind of the dad. The dad never changes. Usually it's the dad or the parents who will ruin styles, and you see the youthful generations abandon it.
Yeah.
Once their parents adopt it. But I've never seen the dads bring on the skinny jeans. They've always been rocking the 501 cuts.
Yeah, and I do think that we're probably gonna get. I think probably the next step I would assume is kind of like a normcore wave, because I think that kind of to your point about guys getting too into the nitty gritty. I think that, and also with raw denim going so mainstream, becoming so popular, like I think people are getting a little fed up with like all of the info dumping and all of this stuff, and they're probably just gonna like want to wear clothes like a normal person, just wear
Yeah.
regular clothes. And I'm kind of with them on that one.
There's an inhale and exhale of the cycles through different fads, and naturally then after that there's going to be a yearning for some ridiculously optimized fashion protocol too. It maybe won't be denim, but I see people's appetite for wanting to overcomplicate things be so vast. It's always going to have its little intricate hands all over different kinds of industries.
Yeah, and I think the best way to be is just like if you are a straight line, just like culture will like come up and down, and occasionally it'll meet you where you're at, and then it'll go somewhere else crazy. And but it's always gonna like come back at some point. And so we've been in a couple years where I think the stuff I'm really into has been top of mind, but I'm certain that's not going to last forever. So I don't know what the next step is, but I'm probably going to stay where I'm at. Although something that like my followers don't typically like is when I like discuss a trend, because they don't like that. But you know, the historian part of me is like, this is interesting. Like, what's sociologically happening here? Why are we doing this? But they don't love that.
Interesting. They don't like it because do they think that you are co-signing that trend? Like you are gonna, you want them to jump on board to that?
I think so. I think even when I'm just being sort of anthropological about it, like this is what seems to be what's happening. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, they think I'm spineless. I'm just giving in.
I suspect none of them actually had the patience to watch your entire video. They probably saw a
Yeah,
thumbnail and
yeah.
thought, "Damn it, Albert is changing."
I know.
Has
Yeah.
there been anything legitimately that you have changed your mind on that you were open about?
Oh gosh. Like that like came from the comment section, or just like kind of a general philosophical position?
I would love whatever comes to mind.
Uh Man, that's a really interesting question. I think I've changed my mind about. I think I just have like grown a little softer about a lot of my opinions, kind of like what we discussed before, where I think it's funny because the times that I will make fun of somebody, I like to think that I'm punching up most of the time. It's like a politician. Back in the old days, it was somebody who had a lot more followers than I did. And sometimes people like in the comments will be like, "Oh, I'd be so scared to wear something around you." And it's like you're just a person. Like I'm a
Yeah.
person. Like I'm not like walking around on the street berating people. Like that would be crazy. And I do get that response sometimes when like if somebody like I was in San Francisco, and I came out of the BART station, and a guy saw me and was like, "Oh my god, I didn't this isn't what I normally wear," or something like that. And I'm like, dude, it's like your life. Like I have no authority to boss you around in your life. Like this is kind of the bit. But I think what's hard about my content is that sometimes it's a bit and sometimes it's not, and there's not a lot of you have to just know. You have to kind of take a guess whether or not I'm being serious or not. Although I think I broadcast it, but God knows. So I feel like some of the rules I'm less strict about, and then also I just feel like the world has changed a lot in the time that I've been doing this, and it's not like because like when you ask like what are guys doing wrong with jeans, and it's like I can always say like they're wearing stretch denim or whatever, but like that's less the kind of most relevant part of the conversation. So yeah, if that makes sense.
It totally does. We keep on getting back to this idea that not just with social media, but I think if you have any level of expertise in your particular domain, you are seen to people who are less educated in that subject,
Uh-huh.
at worst as arrogant. I don't know why that is. What it is in human nature, it seems to be so tribal that I must do some mental math in my head to devalue you, lest I feel valued myself.
Yeah.
Thus, the influencer is born. This is the bittersweet symphony that we have to play with, where to make money, I need to pretend or actually legitimately have skills. And I need to demonstrate those skills. And people hear that they don't have those skills. And then they project some kind of insecurity on you. And it's difficult to grapple with because you're rewarded for that opinion at the same time.
Yeah. There's definitely, and I think that's always they project that tone of arrogance onto like new information for sure. And but yeah, I get it. I mean, and yeah, I mean, I feel like there are sort of rules and like guidelines to my thought process on like who I get to make fun of and who I
I
don't.
like that rule of just punching up. That's a good standard to live by.
Yeah, and that's mainly what it is. I think if people have signed up for a reality TV show, I think they're also game. If they've like made the step to enter the public eye, and it's like, yeah, and you never make fun of somebody based on the things they can't control about themselves, obviously, and keep it to the like the aesthetic choices they made. And part of the ribbing is, I think that a lot of guys felt, really comfortable to not think about literally any aspect of their like aesthetic process, and that somebody out there, I mean, that's I think where people this worry that I'm going to come for somebody comes from. It's that like I wanted those guys to not feel safe. I wanted them to feel like they had to think about it a little, if only think about it.
Yeah, I experienced that too. I think there's so many blind spots that we all have with the level of intentionality that we bring to our lives. And if somebody has shined a light on one particular domain, this is, again, the challenge when you are only documenting a singular part of your life. And I don't really have a solution for this either, unless you have a camera on you 24/7. But people will make the assumption that, well, fuck, Albert's got this figured out. He must have everything figured out. I am sure you have some blind spots, being a 30-year-old man, a lot to learn, as you have admitted to yourself. But people, they don't see that. And I think that is the challenge with the perception that either of us could be ignorant for having opened our mouth and articulated an opinion. God forbid we actually articulate that opinion with like some really sound logic and history behind it too, because people just hear, ooh, I have some work to do, and that's scary.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's funny because I always think of myself as not being super put together, which is maybe not how people view me. I mean, like, I see people with like super, I mean, like your content is super well produced. Like mine is typically not. Like I see people with like with good cameras, with good editing, good lighting, like nice apartments, and I'm like, oh, I'm just like in my dining room and like I have some clothes, and that's kind of how I've always felt. And obviously that's not how everyone perceives me, but that's kind of always been the place I've come from. And like when I started, I felt like what I was doing really well was, or when I tried to see myself from an outside perspective, I thought, I think what I'm doing well here is I'm just like off the cuff, and I'm like not as put together as some of the other people in the space. And so yeah, but obviously like the amount of curation is like a totally a spectrum, and again, like, yeah, people maybe see the scariest part of you or the intimidating expert part of you, and not the human part of you.
Yeah, I imagine, what do you picture the person who stumbles across your content?
Oh my
Maybe
God.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I'm thinking. Finally, a guy, he's just in a kind of a normal apartment, dressing cool in a way that I could totally, it seems very accessible. But then that person sees you over 2 years. They watch you grow, and they watch your content either change or not. Can you put yourself in their shoes and maybe wax a little bit about what you would hypothesize they're going through in their head?
Man, I mean, I think it's it's tough. I think the internet wasn't the way it is now when I was interacting with people online in the way that people interact with me, if that makes sense. Because it's like in college, yeah, there were some clothes people I'd follow, but it wasn't like, it was like maybe like more on the Discover page. I'd look through and be like, oh, this guy's got some good fits. And I'd like save certain things, but there was nobody I was like tuned into. Not that I don't, well, there are a handful of people I think that are very tuned in to me, but I don't know. When, I think you can drive yourself crazy trying to understand how or how not people are looking at you from the outside. And I've definitely tried over the course of my time doing this to think as little about that as possible for my own protection. But, I think, shit. I think that probably what people would be concerned about is like, is he going to like big time on me? And that's something I've always worried about, like especially as something goes from being like something you're just doing for fun to something you do to pay the bills. There are obviously these concessions that you have to make, and it's like it's funny because like even when like I've been doing this full time for like 4 years now maybe, and still whenever I post a sponsored video, people are like, "You're selling out, man. You're selling out," and it's like hope that they know that I keep coming back to do the job and to make things that I hope are entertaining, and also I've tried to raise the production value significantly and put a lot of my own money on the line to like do these longer form YouTube videos to make something I hope is of consequence to sort of balance the existential angst I feel for doing these ads and stuff. But yeah, that's about as far in as I can get without, I don't know, and I don't know who's going to listen to this. I feel like it could be very unsympathetic to hear someone in my position like getting too verklempt about how they're perceived. So I don't know.
I think it goes across all industries. As you gain a level of success, we all want to go to the top.
Yeah.
I think there's a felt sense, though, that once you reach it, there is a guilt associated with it because you're looking down on a lot of different people. I think that speaks to, one, the fact that your content will probably never suffer, if only it'll just get better because it shows you still care. And that is, I think, a human instinct, not so much just the champagne problems of a content creator who's just ripping fat checks left and right from brand partnerships.
But it is something that you have to learn to balance, I think, as you're thrust into it, is like you do start getting access to all the things you want clothes wise, and a lot of times for free or at a discount. And then you can kind of go over, it's easy to go overboard because you're like, oh shit, I have all this stuff now. And like, and these brands, they care about me now, and they see me as a person worth knowing. And I think that you kind of have to come back to center after you've had a binge like that and be like, okay, well, what of my clothes that I'm wearing today did I buy? What of these things would I have 10 years ago have like fought for, saved for, wanted to have?
Yeah.
And I think that you do have to think about that with yourself, because I have seen some people that are like, yeah, it does feel like they were just waiting for an opportunity to start hanging out with XYZ awful famous person, or they just wanted to live in some expensive top tier Essence brand. So I know what that feels like. I get it.
Tell me more about this, though. What is bad about this from the fashion perspective? I want to learn more about what the felt sense is. If you're wearing clothes that were given to you, what's different than that of something that you had saved up for? Do you think that the value that you feel in yourself changes?
I think especially because I've been thinking about this a lot more because I've been making more clothing and doing more collabs. And and like sort of and really asking my base to consider buying something. And so I've had to what I've been trying to do a lot more is really think about like how passionate and excited does this make me feel? Like, because it is a weird feeling when I like go to my dad's house or something. And he's like, I like that sweater. Like, how much does it cost? And I'm like, I don't know. Somebody just mailed it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like not a, like, yes, it's fun, but it's not a good feeling. And it's also like, what I'd strive to do is or what I'd like people to think about is that influencers, I think, are, especially like fashion influencers, you should think of them as like a mannequin or a shop window where like you can, maybe the one way that you can be parasocial with them in a healthy way is to just like watch the revolving door of what comes in and out of their lives. And because I think a lot of people, when they see you wear something, are like, you're telling me to buy this. And it's like, no, I'm not. But I am an avatar for you to take a critical look at this thing and then make an informed choice for yourself about if you're interested. But it is different when you're making your own stuff because you've put a lot of work into it and a lot of heart and soul. And that's also what I've been trying to do a lot more is like, for this recent collab with Womo Copenhagen, it's like I was there when we picked the fabrics in Florence. I was there when we shot all the stuff in Copenhagen. I visited all the factories. Like I did all the legworks. And when I was done with it and like traveling around Europe wearing the product, which is sort of what it's designed for. And then when I walked away from that, I was like, yes, this feels good. I've made something that I would have spent my money on when I was a blossoming fashion nerd. And that's a really good feeling when you come away from it, come away from experience with that. So I think that's the differentiation. It's like, yeah, would somebody really spend their money on this? And then when you have bought something for yourself, I do find I tend to reflect a little bit more on its importance to me. Like I'm actually, I keep a personal archive of several boxes in my apartment of stuff I'll never get rid of. Or maybe if I ever have kids, I'd pass it down. And I'm selling some stuff on eBay, and it's actually over there. And there was a pair of my first pair of Ben Davises that I ever bought, and I wore them constantly. And as I was like making the eBay listing, I was thinking like, these are actually really special. They're even though they don't fit me anymore, I feel like I really associate them with a time and a place and me taking more license over how I wanted to dress. And so there's all that in that piece of clothing. And so I think it's important that I keep that for some indeterminate purpose. And so I decided to keep it.
Man, that's a lot of integrity you have, but it also sounds like a tremendous amount of weight on your shoulders to have to be so conscious of that feeling of guilt.
The guilt of what exactly?
Being careful of shilling for products that you don't believe in or that you've been given.
Yeah.
And balancing the assumptions of what the thoughts people will have of you wearing those sorts of things, that given that you are this mannequin who looks handsome in anything, it's a cosign to you approving of a product that I should therefore be purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I think, but I think that's like what I would hope that my constituency believes that that's a big part of who I am, and like in the way I think about when I do buy my own clothes. And and I think that when I first started on TikTok and stuff, there weren't a lot of people even talking about vintage or like secondhand, and it was all just like sneaker hauls and stuff. And so I was like, I've never been about that, and I really wanted to like define myself in opposition to fast fashion and these certain things. And I've tried to keep that. And also, like, I think the videos of mine that do the best are when I'm like, I found this thing and it's super cheap and it doesn't hurt anybody, and you can get it now in a variety of sizes at XYZ place.
Mm-hmm.
And but there is not an infinite number of those things. And you start to run through the value pieces, and you start to get into like, so for everything I do that gets a little more esoteric or a little more expensive, I try and like bring it back to earth, or just at least if it is kind of expensive in a crazy piece, then really try and show like why I was passionate about it. Like when it comes to watches and stuff too, like I've also like learned I don't really need to show all that on socials, especially like the watch collecting and stuff. Like I think that's got to be more for me, because it can be that's a little alienating, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to look up to, though, and I enjoy that of somebody who has been watching you. I'm here for the journey, and I think it makes sense that you are going to continue to climb up the ladder. And so what if I'm looking up farther and farther, craning my neck? It gives me hope.
Yeah. No, I would hope I would hope it gives hope, and I also feel like, you know, it might be on a different scale from other people just because there's more clothing involved. But like I hope that as my followers and I grow older together, we all kind of are on this like rising tide carrying all ships, and like because it's more fun, and like, but yeah, when I find out, like if a guy stops me at a bar or something and is like, I bought this Tudor because you were wearing it, I'm like, fuck yeah, I love that watch. Like that's one that I like really fuck with. And so to know that somebody took and I remember how I felt when I bought my first watch. I thought I was gonna like ruin myself financially. But I was really grateful for it. It made me feel so good, feel so adult and cool. And so to know that somebody like did something like that on my suggestion is like a tremendous amount of responsibility. But when it's something that I like really care about and I'm excited about, that's a really nice feeling.
Mm-hmm. In the spirit of not turning this into a link in bio, buy this and your life will be sorted.
Yeah.
Sort of ending to this. I'd like to close with however you want to answer this, because I think it's fascinating your philosophy behind how you wear. It's sort of hard to teach though as a life lesson, and living 30 years and educating yourself and experiencing so many different things, different. But if a young man heard this, or an older man heard this, and wanted to do better tomorrow, what's a good way of thinking about fashion in general?
You don't need to have it all at once. Like if you're doing this right, it takes time. And so that doesn't mean that you have to transform overnight into like the guy that has the perfect jacket and the perfect boots and the perfect everything. It's like it just takes time. And yeah, I think if somebody tonight wanted to get the perfect pair of Levi's 505s off eBay, they could do that pretty easily. All they need is measuring tape and a pair of jeans they already like. Like you can upgrade your shit for like $50 tonight, and then you're on your way. But I think that's also where people get overwhelmed about influencers and overwhelmed about like people in the fashion space. It's like they appear to be a monolith that has it all figured out, when reality, for me, it's been like 11-ish years that I've been fiendishly learning about all this stuff. And only in the last couple have I had anywhere near the money to like really tap into some of the things I was excited about. And, and there were points when I worked at Self Edge where I was like putting a ton of my paycheck back into the store and eating like beans basically, but wearing all the Japanese denim I've ever wanted. And so don't do that. Like, don't sacrifice your quality of life to have all the things right now. Like, take it in stride, experience them at your leisure, wear things like a normal person. And, and just like be okay with the process, because, that's how it's meant to be, and it'll be fine.
Beautiful, man. Thank you very much for your time, Albert.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Michael.